Started when I was 5 years old, only I was memory repressed back then. When you're in REM sleep, they can just bring you there. Rapid eye movement, stage of sleep. That's how they do it. They call it a consciousness transfer.
They can transfer your consciousness into a clone at the cloning station if they have a clone of you.
You don't have to be born into it. You have to be semi-attractive or have some kind of a skill that they want to use or steal from you.
When you don't know what it is, you think that it's your real body. I thought it was my real body, and I thought they were going to kill me. And they do that to a lot of people, give them fear of death. I wake up and I'm standing in the dirt of this arena.
Some people are drugged, so they think that it's a dream, or they're in the astral realm, the spirit realm. Depends on who you are, where you're from. That's what they tell you. And you don't wake up, so it's not a dream. This is how the Illuminati NWO works. They meet at the cloning station. When they go to sleep, they use it for their crazy stuff. You name it, they've done it.
There's a video audio thing called mind voice. Some people call it artificial telepathy. People think they have to put suction cups all over the head. No. When you're a clone there, they can just put a chip right in your clone's head and read it like that. Most people formulate things in their own voice in their head. Once you train with this, you can sit in front of a speaker that's dedicated to your own mind voice, all right? Now you can think in your own head a sound, anything. Listen. Think in your own head. There was no sound. Nobody heard anything, but you put that in your own head. You can make that sound come out of the friggin' speaker. And then you can twist it and augment it, change it, add to it. Then you can add a drum line in the background. You can do this with the aid of this chip in your head as a clone. And then there's visuals. The visual thing is harder to explain, but the audio thing is just that. You can sit in front of a speaker and play your own thoughts to yourself.
They all use me as like the catalyst for like this, they call it the show. They said that I'm like the entertainer there, and it's the most amazing thing how I made a song out of thin air out of nothing. At first, the songs came pretty easy, but then they started to trickle down, so they started to threaten me. So I made more songs, and then they started to torture me, torture clones of me. And they just kept on doing that for years and years and years. After I'd made like the first 20, then they all started coming. Like there's numerous cloning stations, and certain people go to certain ones.
There's two different kinds of cloning. There's replication cloning, where it comes up as a baby, put the cells in and make the same person as a baby. There's duplication cloning as well, where they grow you in a big thick tank, fill it full of water. They agitate the tissue sample a certain amount of times, and it grows a fully formed duplicate of you within 5 months.
They said it's mostly maintenance. It doesn't even cost that much. It's just they set it to growing, and then they have to have someone maintain the tank as it's growing.
They have to get like new bodies like I heard it was like every year, but I guess it's like every 2 years, and some people last longer.
First cell of life would be a clone.
The Dulce base has an entire floor devoted to cloning. In Area 51, the underground, they have an entire floor devoted to cloning. A lot of the deep bases, they have an entire floor devoted to cloning. The cloning floor is the one that has the big auditorium and the seating and the arena. They started doing it around 1945. It was all politicians at first, a government, world communications.
Then they got bored in these disposable bodies because it loses the novelty really fast.
So they started bringing in all these celebrities.
All the mainstream artists and all the biggest political people and all the biggest royalties go to this place.
They don't realize that it's a contract for the rest of your life. The rest of your life. If you ever have any children, they're included in the contract. They can kill you remotely from the cloning center. If they apply a constant state of pain to your clone, you'll die in real life.
It's a terrible, diabolical, nefarious place. The sex slaves they bring there, they call that Project Muffin.
They run them through these things called MK Ultra scenarios. They can put a chip in the clone's head and implant sound, visualizations, better than computer graphics.
An example, this guy wants this woman, but he's not as good looking as what she usually goes out with. They'll put this girl, when she sleeps, into different situations where she's in a life or death situation and have this guy save her. They can do this 16 different times. Next time that girl sees that guy in real life, from the visual, she will be automatically predisposed to like this guy. Depends on whatever they program in. They can also do it with fear, so that someone will fear someone the same way that they would be attracted. They get the school pictures from schools all over North America. They call it the catalog. They look at the cutest ones, get the medical stuff from them, clone them, and use them for sex slaves.
They make people think that they've been abducted by aliens. They have a set with a fake saucer. It's got a ramp leading up to it. It's small, and on the inside it's all decked out, and they clone people into the place, make them open up their eyes on the table, and they're surrounded by like these alien guys with fake masks on that are all going to like take turns on this person, and they freak out, and then they wake up the next morning, they think they've been abducted, and they have archives of abduction porn. Mark 1 clone, they call it an organic robotoid. They got more side effects. You're more confused when you're a Mark 1. They're REM driven as well. So they don't use them anymore, they just use the Mark 2s. It's called a Mark II REM driven clone. They can only put you into one of these clones when you're fully into REM sleep. The Mark III is a run around all the time clone. No REM needed. They can have it as a set consciousness, or they can do a duality thing. In real life, you'd have to do absolutely nothing and totally concentrate on walking and talking as this clone. You get a double vision type of thing. You got to close your eyes and concentrate. They don't go so good. And Mark IV is supposed to be like top of the line.
They just call it a double. And it's supposed to be just like a person. But the Mark II ones, they don't last. They have to get new bodies like every 2 years, and some people last longer. They get kind of rashy. Different types have different ailments. They'll just throw the old clone in this big chipper, looks like a big garbage disposal, and they just chuck them in there, and they get ground up and go down. They make 20 clones of you at a time, and just set 20 tanks on growing just yous, and then they pick out the best 5 and use them and throw the rest in the chipper.
These creatures are called the Vril.
They come up from underground different spots all over the world.
These things have always been under us. These bloodline families, they're just lizard helpers, and lizards favored them in the past. They used to bring them up gold and gems from underground that they mined, and they would trade people gems and gold, and they would give them animals, children, all kinds of things, and just cart them down tunnels and cages. Some of these things, the Brotherhood of the Snake, Dragon Society and stuff, it's all about the lizards. They come up underneath the underground bases. The underground bases have connecting tunnels underneath of them, and they go way down deeper.
They need a methane oxygen mix to breathe, and deep underground they got sulfur pools, I guess, that make this stuff.
There's 3 types.
There's a 1 to 1.5 foot tall one. That's the real type 1.
The type 1s are covered in red diamond-shaped scales. Real type 1s are real dumb. Little dragons, those are the real type 1s.
There's a type 2 that is not parasitic, but it's still vicious, nasty, carnivorous. They're all carnivorous.
Real type 2 are a little smarter.
And there's a type 3 that's 8 feet tall, has a real long neck, and looks like a gray alien.
And real type 3 run the previous 2 kinds. These lizards have a unique biological property of their bodies.
The lizards have what's called a proboscis.
It's an ejectable brain and spinal column.
The small ones they use to drone people, because the proboscis on young lizard type 1s, they're small enough to go into an eye and not ruin the eye, because they're supposed to do this to animals with bigger eyeballs, probably friggin' dinosaurs.
They parasite a human's brain. This top cap thing on the top of their head comes out. They can do this once in their life. It pulls their spinal column along with it. The human would have to be restrained or unconscious.
The thing squiggles in through the eye. It does a spiral around the optic nerve all the way to a certain point, and it's driven there by taste. And they said once it gets there, it has the taste of butterscotch. It then starts what they call sweating the quill. The spinal cord stuff comes out of the spinal cord, and it's everything that the lizard is. The lizard's whole body is dead, and it can't go back in. It's one way.
The juice that's in the spinal cord gets excreted out of the tip of this thing. They're parasitic cells. The parasitic cells go into the brain.
The old person's consciousness is gone. The body is absolutely, totally dominated, and the lizard is smarter as a human. Over time, it'll develop a rash. It'll lose its hair.
And they're actually deficient. They're dumber than the original person.
And they mimic human behavior. And it knows that its life is dependent on it mimicking human behavior, so it does really well. Even with other animals, it's smart enough to instinctually mimic the animal's behavior. The drones of 100 years ago erased any existence of these real lizards. From Egyptian carvings on walls, they would smash them. Or books that had anything in them about them, they would burn them.
Atlantis used to be called Thule, Thule, and they had some pretty good technology. Atlanteans used to use the Vril to drone other nations. Lizards did something to Atlantis. They hinted that the Vril tried to drone all these people. They had a base in Antarctica. They abandoned it.
Hitler had heard that there was some kind of magic power in Tibet.
So he sent an expedition that cost like billions of dollars in today's money.
Met the Tibetan monks, the main ones, and they introduced him to the lizards. They told him there's some kind of base on the South Pole there. They showed him on a map.
Hitler got a hold of all the technology, started back engineering it, but he didn't get it fast enough, and the Americans and the Russians took it with Project Paperclip, and they started back engineering saucers. The Roswell crash was a man-made saucer. The Russians and the Americans each got different bits and pieces of technology from Hitler. The Americans got the saucer stuff. They might even got the cloning technology from this Atlantean base.
A bunch of billionaires years ago got together and said, we don't want to die. We want to figure out how to live again as clones. So they did that. They put everything that the person is, allegedly, on a microchip and record the consciousness. And then if the person dies that day, they take that microchip, because they can re-record every night. And they take that microchip and put it into either a clone or a real person's body, which has less side effects, which is what they do, and take them over bodily, just like how the lizards do, but with a microchip. The thing used to be as big as a circuit board. They whittled it down so that the microchip is just a bit bigger than an apple seed. The technology is flawed. It's not as bad as, but it's kind of like the movie Pet Sematary. When the person comes back, not the same, and they're all evil and stuff.
You don't even have to kill them. You press a button and they shut off like a light switch. There's no pain, there's no nothing. They just don't want to cease to be existing.
They gave me back my memory at age 30. They call it the awakening.
So I was there for 25 years and I couldn't put it together in real life. They manually, with the push of a button, allow you to remember. So I remembered it all. They had to tell me gradually so I didn't have a heart attack. I got all the info when they thought that I was absolutely loyal to them.
It was like they were trying to show off by showing me what they could do and what they had and stuff.
And they can give you sodium pentothal truth serum into your clone to see if you will talk about them if you're unmemory repressed or unrepressed memory, and you'll be able to remember all the clone stuff. But once you're unrepressed memory, you always remember everything. They can't keep your memory away from you then when they bring you there.
Every time they activate you, you will remember it the next day. And it's not like remembering a dream, and it's not like feeling like a dream. It's just normal as normal. They can give you an injection to make you feel fuzzy so it'll feel like a dream, but it's just normal.
So they only unrepress people that are real ironclad loyal. It also makes you smarter as a clone when you are unrepressed memory. So they wanted me to be unrepressed memory so I could think up better lyrics for songs.
I was planning to turn on them. As soon as they released my memory to me, I was going to be down in the police station, on the internet, something, until they killed me. Because, you know, I can't continue to be going to this place. And I always told them I didn't want to go there. Then they wanted to use me for something called Project Camelot.
Well, there was a bunch of kids there, candidates for it.
This is a real slimy plan to manufacture a messiah-like figure to lead the Earth through a cataclysmic catastrophe.
They were going to have someone attempt to control the population by talking them through a big catastrophe. They were planning on leading people into underground bases and messing them up, depopulating and stuff. I could never do something like that, to see the world play with people's religion and things. In the past, I agreed to do their whole play Jesus thing, but it was a deception on my part because I just wanted to get unmemory repressed so I could tell the world.
For years, I acted loyal to them. I even had to almost give myself Stockholm Syndrome to make myself believe that I liked them because my family members were there. After years of playing friends with them, they told me everything.
And then I was a member. I was never a member. I was always trying to deceive them until the day I could destroy them.
I made more songs than anybody in the history of the earth. They had me doing just about all of mainstream. It became a religious thing after a while.
With how good I did the songs and stuff.
And different ideas for movies, catch lines in movies, and toy ideas. They kept on bringing me back, and I'd come up with more ideas to keep them from bothering me, but little did I know, I was sealing my doom with them, really. I started making songs when I was about 5. By the time I was hitting about 8 years old, they were saying,
What if this kid is like some kind of special religious significance? And then all the religious fanatics started going weird, trying to say that I could be New Age Jesus because it's around the same time and he looks the part.
and they said I'm in the Nostradamus prophecies and picture book. They said there's a picture of me in it.
It says that the next Messiah's initials will be DM. It's a reference in it to King Dawn. First, they wanted me to play fake Jesus for them. We were going to use him to be fake Jesus, but it turns out he's real Jesus, and if we kill him, it says in the prophecies that God will destroy the earth. So they're using that as an excuse to keep me alive. There was a bunch of people there that were saying, well, we're Luciferians, and Lucifer wants us to get Jesus and torture him in the next century. And we'll get good luck and good fortune for doing it. And they call it fleecing the lamb.
They included me into some kind of a torture spectacle. They'd chain me up and, man, they just torture you.
And I don't want to even endorse this stuff that they say.
Like, I don't tell people I'm Jesus or anything. Like, I think that's kind of silly. And it even says in this Nostradamus prophecy that they follow that the Savior of the world comes back and saves the world with truth and sues all of the corrupt lords and performers for legal recompense more than anyone else has in the history of the world. The heads of certain religions, they're kind of united in this thing, and they call themselves the Pharisees. The richest people in the world are the heads of religious sects. They've been getting donations for thousands of years. They've been getting the golden jewels for thousands of years. They're the richest people. Buy people's loyalty and ensure their loyalty with fear of man-made hell, death after death is phones.
They made a collage of a bunch of different prophecies, the Nostradamus prophecies, the Quatrains, the Revelations, and the Hopi Indian prophecies, Mayan and Aztec prophecies, and they mixed them all together and tried to make some kind of sense of it. These Pharisees, they make the prophecies happen in any way they can to ensure that religion is still a viable business. They flooded New York using HAARP. They're making rivers go red. They just made that red cow get born, a red heifer cow.
They're trying to put it out there in the public now because they don't know what to do, and they know if they take the first step, they might be killed. So they're using me to take the first step. They want it exposed so that the populace will force them to shut it down.